If you,
Yeah, we're live.
Being live streamed.
yeah, got it. Right. So we should go profi then, right? I'm ready. Oh shit, I sound ready, but my ball. Yeah. Hold on. If you,
Yeah, we're live.
So we're live.
Okay,
we should go
whatever the hell that means.
Ready?
So before we say anything inappropriate, dildo tits,
Yes,
fly fishing.
yes. Shit, fuck.
Pete, remember.
Did I tell you guys I have Tourette's?
You know, it's not Tourette's if you do it on purpose, bro.
Dildo
The
tits.
doctor said.
Professionals. Woo!
There we go. All right.
So just-
Professionality in the fly fishing industry.
Just to keep it professional. Professional is the word of this live stream.
Yeah,
Hey, nice to meet you. This is the first time that I meet you, and it's not
I
like
know,
we
man.
had an
I know.
introductionary
It's been,
50
been
minutes.
a lot of emailing. It's nice to put a face to the name.
This shit, this whole moment is we are missing out on like 15 golden moments of content here.
We've got more in us. Don't worry.
Good.
Is it meant to be live now? Because I'm on YouTube and it still says waiting for Peter. What do you see, Matteo?
Yes,
Fly fishing.
yes. Shit, fuck.
Pete, remember.
You guys I have Tourette's?
Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Do you guys see it live now, guys?
No.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Strictly profi, boys. Strictly profi. You see how we do.
But I see you guys,
We see you too.
and you don't see the live stream, guys.
I see all of you.
I don't see it. I don't see
No, but
it.
I'm not on YouTube, so I'm probably just not helping the situation.
When I pull up the link, it says waiting for Peter Perch.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm getting.
When you know we're waiting on a fucking artist to get their shit together.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that before.
So it says I'm live streaming, and I see you guys live on the interwebs.
It says live YouTube up here, Steve.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the link he sent.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
it's a
and-
bad link.
It says waiting for Peter Perch.
Yeah. That's a cool octopus cushion.
Nice. Where are you located, sir?
I'm in Brighton, so on the south coast of the UK. So
Okay.
I just moved down here. So I used to live in Chalkstream country. I was working in river restoration there, but then
Okay.
I moved down here with my girlfriend, and I've just got a new rivers job, and I'm just trying to get into doing some salt. I've done a bit of coastal sea trout, but it's mainly bass here, and it's getting a bit late in the year. But I feel like I need to get fishing where it's nearby, because I used to just go out the house and fish at Chalkstream, and now obviously
Right.
I'm stressed by having reels and rods and
Oh,
not
yeah,
having
man.
like a nearby jam.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Like, believe me, like, where we live. Oh, holy shit.
Oh, I think it might be going.
Got it.
I've sent you a link to in the chat. Let's see if I'm live streaming there.
Where'd you send it?
In the
Yeah,
We
chat,
also lost someone.
in the chat of the.
Yeah, it's streaming there.
Not great.
Well, if you want to throw us that link, Peter, I'll throw it up on our Instagram story real quick. And it can say we're live. Or we could just be live. Just see what happens. Go with the flow. All right, Lee.
Guys, can you send the link of what?
Peter's gone again.
I didn't even know you could fish for bass in England. I thought you'd be like excommunicated from the fly fishing community altogether if it wasn't upstream and dry fly only.
Yeah. So I mean, you can fish for a lot of stuff here. I mean, there's also some pretty good course fishing. I mean, like barbel,
Yeah, I knew the course.
like
I
the
knew guys getting
extension.
the course stuff. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, upstream dry fly, yeah, I mean, there is the kind of, it's not really a cult, but like these rules. I am a member of a fishing club where it's like,
Right.
if you're not upstream dry fly and someone catches you, you're getting fucking banned from the club.
That's crazy.
Well, on one level, there's kind of sense, right? If you've got heavily pressurized water and you know, relatively good conditions for sight fishing, that kind of thing, then I can see that you're kind of trying to reduce fishing pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also sometimes
downstream is so much more effective. They don't see your leader, they don't see your line, all they see is the fly and they eat it. All we do is fish downstream. It's such a crazy thought to me to like, fly fishing is hard enough. Like, why are we making it harder? To a certain degree, there's a line where you cross. Why aren't we just spin fishing anymore? I understand that side of the line too, but it's such a weird distinction. I giggle at all the distinctions we draw within fly fishing, like these artificial distinctions. Like, oh, I'm doing it the right way, but you're doing it the wrong way, even though you're doing it this way, and this guy says you're doing it the wrong way. You know what I mean? It's just funny to me.
So are we talking about squirmies now?
Dude, I fish the fuck out of squirmy worms. It's not even funny. And let me tell you something. Trout love them.
Sad.
Love them.
And it's usually the bigger trout that tend to love them.
All of them, dude. You can drift them. You can strip them. They eat them all different ways. You can fish them. You can fish them for tarpon in the Keys for the worm hatch under Bahia Honda Bridge in Big Pine.
With a much better hook.
With a much better hook.
And is it tarpon or is it a sabalito?
See, I think you guys brought all this garbage from Europe, brought all this garbage fishing our way with all this comp Euro nymphing, like heavy, like these kids can't even cast 20 feet anymore. All these comp kids, and all that shit came from Europe.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but don't blame the UK. That was mainland Europe, man. That was everybody says the Czech team. It was actually the Polish team, then the Czech team who you know the story, like, you know, had to get like vinyl gloves from doctor's surgeries, and yeah, I mean, Soviet fishing. Blame the Soviet Union, bro.
Dude, that's a good one. They had the US the US team qualifiers on a river around us one time, and I was guiding like two clients, like didn't know shit about fishing. And I'm like rowing down the river and I see all these comp dudes, and this guy, Lance Egan from Utah, who's like just a badass. He's like probably the best American in the last 10 years, but he's sitting there fishing, and I like anchor up across the river. And I'm like, yeah, you guys can just fish this run right out here. So they're nymphing this run, but I'm watching Lance Egan fish the whole time. This dude is like wading out to his waist in the middle of the run, getting that Euro rig, snagging a fish, getting him in the net, sprinting to the bank, measuring that motherfucker, getting him off, running back. Dude, he probably caught 30 fish in 15 minutes out of a run I wouldn't have even looked at. Like, and my clients are like, oh, we're not really catching anything. Should we go? I'm like, no, you guys just shut up. We're going to watch this dude fish for the next 20 minutes and just be amazed. Like, don't get me wrong. It's efficient and effective as shit. I think it takes some of the joy out of it a little bit, though. Like, I've seen kids do it when there's dry fly fishing to be had. You know what I mean? Like, fish are going bonkers, and these kids are working like 6 inches of a run at a time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it, but I'm old, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was fishing with my cousins. They were surprised that they were all fishing dry flies, and I was tight line nymphing, and they were like, dude, these fish are so close to us.
Oh yeah. Dude, there was one day my buddy Danny from Crooked Creek Holler, we were fishing, and he was Euro nymphing, and I was just straight, you know, regular American nymphing. And he whipped my ass so bad. Like, I went out 2 days later by myself on this creek I know, and I had an 11-3 3-weight switch rod, and I just rigged that thing up with a Euro rig, and I went out there and whacked fish. God damn it, it does work.
And I see two dry fly fishermen with a tear in their eyes listening to us talking about tight line nymphing.
No, look, I want to clear this up once and for all. There's this running joke with some people I know that I'm a dry fly Nazi. And so they send me pictures of squirmy worms to try and trigger me and all the rest of it. And of course I play up to it. But I started fly fishing, tight line nymphing, right? In South Africa, when you fish for yellowfish, they're bottom feeders. You get surface action like in a season, like five evenings, 6 evenings when there's some caddis. So it was all like that, right? Like big water, and you're going for yellowfish, mudfish, and like catfish. And I mean, yeah, it's hard to find the fish, but it's crazy fun fishing, and they're super strong. But those few days where we had the dry fly, you know, that fucking drug, like actually seeing it.
I agree.
After that now, I mean, it's sort of started to sort of taint it. When we were talking with Rolf Nylander, kind of the conclusion, one of the guys I suggested, the thing about dry fly is it's just enough happiness. It's not so much that like you're okay for the next 2 weeks, you know, or not so much that you get this kind of withdrawal effect, but it just hits the button every time.
The way I always break it down for people is I'd rather catch them on dry flies than trout. I'd rather catch on dry and bass and everything else that eats in top water. I'd rather do it that way than anything else. I'd rather catch fish than not catch fish. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not going to sit out there and beat my head against the wall on dry flies when it's just not happening. But I think it's also a function of like where you grew up and how you grew up fishing. If you grew up with excellent dry fly fishing, why the fuck would you do anything else? You know what I mean? But like around the South where we are, like we get a lot of bugs, but like except on our tailwaters, but our freestone streams, we get a lot of bugs, but we're on granite bedrock. So we don't get like we don't get big hatches, and we don't have hatches that last very long. Like you might see 7 or 8 different bugs hatch a day, but 1 or 2 of each, you know what I mean? So the fish are real opportunistic on our like little creeks. They'll eat anything. It doesn't matter if it's floating down, they'll eat it. Like our tailwaters are different where we get blueing olives and what are called sulfurs, East Coast sulfurs, which out west, they call them pale morning duns, a little bit different, but the same thing. But we get those for 6 months at a time each. And during periods of that, we get blanket hatches. They're small. But they're all like 16, 18, 20s. You know what I mean?
But this is actually a nice bridge back to Southern culture on the fly. What would you say would specify Southern culture on the fly?
We can't see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've gone, Peter. I'll be right back. My dealer's here.
Ah, great. Another technical difficulty.
No worries. We'll go. We'll muster on.
Peter Perch. Look, it says his name.
There it is.
Just says
Southern culture on the fly. Well,
you still there, Peter?
or do you want
I
us
am.
to wait?
No, I am here. Am I here?
Yeah, we're here. You want us to keep going, or you want to wait for your video to come?
No, man, keep going.
All right. So originally the name came from there you are. There's a band called Southern Culture on the Skids. Pretty popular where we are in the South. It was kind of a play on that. That band also had like a bunch of funny songs, not just rock songs. Like they had a whole song about banana pudding, one of their like best songs ever. So it was kind of like a play on the magazine. Was going to be fishing, but a lighter side of it. Really, it came from more just the South never really got recognized in the fly fishing community in America. Like all the attention was always paid to like the tradition of the Northeast
or the West
or the Rocky Mountain West, you know, and all its splendor and grandeur. But like the South always kind of not even second fiddle, just was kind of ignored by the fly fishing community. But fly fishing in the South has existed since, you know, right after it existed in New York, it existed in the South, Southern Appalachians. It goes back to the late 1800s. We have a vast tradition of fly fishing in this area.
We also have the most variety.
Well, yeah, and we also have saltwater within our region, and so it makes it unique that you can be fishing for trout one day, drive 3.5 hours, and be fishing for redfish or tarpon or permit or bonefish or whatever else, cobia, striper, saltwater striper. There's so much diverse fishing here that we kind of we wanted to spotlight what we have here and kind of let it be known that, you know, if you're a serious fly fisherman, there's nothing wrong with residing in the South because you will have plenty of shit to do for an entire lifetime, if not 2 or 3, you know?
Is it actually also why it was frowned upon? Because it's more like dirty fly fishing, not the traditional fly fishing, but also a lot of salt water and like novel species on the fly, like redfish.
The thing you don't get in the South is fly fishing purists as much, like New York, like the Adirondack, the Catskills, like, and like we were talking about England before with upstream dry fly fishing. None of that really ever existed in the South. We are utilitarian fishermen, and like if you go back in history, Southern fly fishermen are also deadly with a spin rod and a bait rod and trolling gear. Whatever they're biting and how they're biting it best was the way guys fished it.
But they're also really they're inventive because they had to be. I mean, there's people figuring out carp, people figuring out muskie, people figuring out tarpon.
Like the Midwest and us for smallmouth, we kind of kept pace with each other, developing like fly fishing tactics for smallmouth bass. Largemouth bass, has kind of become bigger out west because they have all those Great Lakes. Like Texas has world-class largemouth fishing, and those dudes have really started tuning into that stuff. But once you kind of, and it was always this way in traditional fly fishing media, there was so much focus on trout, and then there was tarpon and permit and bonefish, Grand Slam stuff. But 90% of content was trout, like in your traditional fly fishing print magazines. Like once you kind of expand the focus and see everything else you can do with a fly rod, the South is just a perfect playground. I mean, because everything's close. Like you don't have to drive 2 days to get from one fishery to a completely different fishery with a completely different species. I'm like, we do trips, all the way through Florida where you can never be on the saltwater. You can just fish ditches for juvenile tarpon this big, or South Florida for weird Amazon species that they've stocked over various periods of Florida because it's an ecological shit show, but it makes it fun for fishing. Like, it's just the South. Like, if you really want to look at everything across the board, the South is the best fly fishing in the world. Because I mean,
seems like it.
There's just no other place with this much biodiversity in this condensed geographic area. You know what I mean? And it can all be done on fly if you're willing to put in the time and figure it out. Like bowfin, I don't know if you guys have those in Europe, but like they're prehistoric. They don't have a tail. The whole back of the body is just one big, like weird gelatinous fucking mass. But they're prehistoric. They date back to the Cretaceous period or some shit. Blaine Chocolate has been getting into these things hard, and he says it's his new favorite species on Earth. But like, there's just so much weird stuff like that in the Southeast that I just don't know where else in the world you can get it unless you go to the Amazon and start, counting species and comparing lists. It's a lot of fun. And so Southern culture on the fly, we kind of came from that aspect. We also came from it, like, because the magazine doesn't take itself too seriously. Southern fly fishermen don't tend to take themselves as seriously as maybe some other regions in America's fly fishermen, because we were always utilitarians. We just wanted to catch fish, whether that meant nipping with squirmies, which we have mastered and spread the wealth throughout the world. That's the squirmy worm started in the South.
But no, not taking itself so seriously is what was more interesting about doing the magazine, because the other magazines just seem it just doesn't seem that real. None of it seemed that real to us at all. Just fishing reports and stories of grand trips and vacations.
Well, and I mean, and if a dude has a spiritual experience like fishing and wants to write about it and tell people about it, that's awesome. But not every time everyone goes fishing do they have a spiritual experience.
And it kind of feels like fake romanticism as well, huh?
Exactly,
man. I don't need a story about everybody's spiritual experience either.
I don't know if you guys, I'm sure it made it over there, but the movie Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, like, I feel like all these stories started becoming a little bit too much Bodhi from Point Break. Like, everything was like the most meaning in the world, and like, oh my god, like I put it like it was life and death, and then I caught this fish, and the gods shined upon me, and all was right in the, like, come on, man. Like, like sometimes it's just fun, like, just because it's fun, and it's okay to say that. you don't always have to go out with those fucking expectations, you know?
But I mean, I think, everything you said about kind of utilitarian culture and, fishing multi-species and, being practical guys, I always had the feeling in Southern culture that it's distinctly anti-elitist, right? And that kind of romanticization is a kind of elite thing as well, that like every kind of like super rewarding trout adventure, changes your world. But it's funny you mentioned gods, because I know in the penultimate issue, you're talking about don't be a dick, right? Don't be a dick or you'll get kicked in the dick. So we know that river gods exist on some kind of level.
Oh, absolutely. I completely believe it.
So, but I suppose I'm curious to know, when did you most feel the imminence, the presence of the river gods? Was there just one moment where you suddenly realized the river gods exist?
Let me put it, I'll say it's a collection. For me, it's a collection of moments in that almost every single big fish or great trip I've ever had, something super fucked up happened immediately prior. Like I broke a rod, caught a 24-inch brown within an hour, like truck breaks down, the worm hatch goes off in the Keys and everyone jumps big. Like it's sacrifice for gain. You know what I mean? Like I lose, I'm really bad, and Steve, like I lose my wallet, my keys. Like you got a hot glue gun shit to my hands, like Edward 40 hand style, for me to fucking keep stuff.
Don't ever let him hold your keys.
But every time it happens to me, like it's happened so I don't lose my shit anymore when I'm on a trip because of it, because I know something good is about to happen because something shitty has just happened. I am a full believer in it in all ways, all times.
Was it last year you lost your wallet on 3 different fishing trips?
Yeah, dude. One time we were in Indian River Lagoon, which is like an ocean lagoon in Florida, and we're running back from the flat to the ramp in my boat, and I had my wallet. God, it's such a dumb wallet. Look how big this stupid thing is. I got it at the airport in Cancun because it was the biggest wallet I'd ever seen, and I just wanted the biggest wallet I've ever seen. So my wife fucking hates that thing too. But it blew out of my bag and into the Indian River Lagoon, and gone, everything. 2 weeks later, some dude gets in touch with my wife through the nature center, the zoo in town where my kids go.
No,
that's
not what happened.
The membership card.
No, they actually contacted me because I was in Florida.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They brought me his wallet.
Dude was fishing off his dock across the lagoon 4 miles away. His kid was fishing and saw my wallet at the bottom of the dock. Picked it up, still had all my shit in it, still that wallet. I think things balance out. I've always been a believer in that,
No money though.
No money. I had to borrow money to get home.
No money.
But I do enough nice things. Steve lent me some money.
And I sent him back his wet wallet.
Yeah, it was wet, but it still survives. The dude in Cancun, I bought it from at the airport. I asked him, he's like, oh man, that's crocodile leather. I'm like, did you kill a crocodile yourself? He's like, fuck yeah, I did, dude. I was like, give me that wallet.
Would you say you would have a similar experience, Steve?
Excuse me?
Would you say that you had similar experiences?
I don't lose my keys and wallet. So no,
Steve is just the luckiest dude you've ever had on a boat or on a river ever. So he doesn't need it. He doesn't need a sacrifice.
I don't lose things.
Golden horseshoe shoved.
And no, I don't have bad experiences to make myself have good experiences.
What about you?
They're all experience.
But it's definitely interesting traveling with Dave for these reasons.
I'm a blast to travel with.
It's a shit show, really.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He's a blast.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
It's a festival for the senses.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
So since we were not live streaming about during the origin story of SCOF,
yeah, man.
Let's circle back again. How did you guys meet and decided to start a magazine?
I'm gonna let Steve tell it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dave was working in a fly shop that I would go to occasionally, and we started talking and kind of realized that we might like to hang out a little bit or, fish a little or something. And pretty much, I think he would, close the shop when I came over. We'd hang out in the alleyway behind, smoke a joint. And, wasn't really good for his job, but it,
I was an excellent fly shop employee. I moved rods.
I'm sure the boss really didn't appreciate it. But no, we started fishing together. Dave was a guide at the time and had a drift boat, and I had not fished out of drift boats for trout before. And he started taking me down the river, and the more we talked, the more we realized that we had certain skills that could lend itself to maybe doing an online magazine. And we figured we could start the online magazine for, what was it, $250?
Yeah,
We needed $250. It seemed easy to come up with. And
I think I still owe you 125.
you might actually. And I think
I'm
the,
100% sure he does.
I'm 100% sure.
I'm pretty much sure he owes me the money still. And
Maybe that's where the
think
money went from your wallet.
Exactly. Exactly.
We just thought it would be interesting to start something about the South, like we were saying, and that it just felt it felt like left out of the conversation. And we thought we could do better than other people could, and maybe a few people would look at it. And we really didn't plan on doing it for any length of time. We didn't really think that we would be doing it for more than a year.
When was the first time that you ever realized, like, oh wow, people are actually reading this shit?
Well, we would go to like one of the, like IFTD or one of the big fishing convention shows, and people actually had seen the magazine or talked about it. We got some emails from
I think it was Orbis emailing us, asking us about advertising. That was when I was like, holy shit.
We started realizing
we got them. We suckered all of them.
we started realizing that the companies had that the Southeast was the actual market they hadn't tapped.
Yeah, it was they had never really spent marketing money in the South. And because of that, they realized, oh shit, we could actually, there's a lot of potential here. And if we spend a little bit of money marketing the Southeast, gains could be had, you know what I mean?
We did, yeah, but it just really wasn't something we thought about when we started it, but
No.
it turns out it's true. They did need more marketing in the South. There was such a lack of anything except for the Keys.
And is this
Honestly-
also because like Southern Appalachians is like traditionally a poor region, or?
It has been historically, as of now, like it's kind of a lot of like Asheville where we live is kind of turning more into like a Colorado mountain town where there's a lot of money coming in, a lot of tourism, like we are a very touristy spot now. So it's kind of sets up more like a Rocky Mountain kind of vacation town model. But yeah, once you go out into the country, it's still poor as shit throughout most of the Appalachians. But yeah, I mean, somewhat honestly, like half the reason we started the magazine was we were hoping that it would like we'd make just enough money that our wives wouldn't give a shit for going on fishing trips to cool places, and like we could warrant like, oh baby, it's work.
Yeah,
And
maybe get a little, free flight or
yeah, some free rides,
lodging somewhere.
like a guide for a day, like our expectations were not high. The bar
And
was
that's why
set very low.
And that's why you're stopping right now. They stop believing you.
Exactly. Exactly.
They're not buying it.
They're not
anymore.
buying the work bullshit anymore.
No, they really aren't actually.
No, they're that about like I think 6 years in, my wife started making Steve send all of my checks directly to her. Because she was like, there's no way that you were making this little money off the magazine. I'm like, but baby, there's expense. I got a flats boat. That's a magazine expense.
Yeah, we had this way of filtering the money through other things.
Straight embezzlement device.
Hey,
I wanted to
what's
move
the
all the
worst?
money offshore and move the magazine onto the dark web exclusively.
So why now that Steve is finally relocated close to you? Why stop now?
Well, I mean, we've been doing it a long time. When we started out, it was we're creative people, you know, and we founded a really interesting creative outlet. And I think over time, as normal things do like this, became more of where we have like a time frame, and that time frame doesn't always allow for creativity the way we enjoyed it to begin with. And over the decade of putting together ideas and stories and places around the Southeast, we, you know, at the beginning, there was a giant bucket to choose from, stuff to choose from. And the creativity that we want doesn't really want us or let us repeat ourselves over and over again. And so in a sense, we're running out of stuff to like tap into and to use. And we've got good contributors that we've worked with that have made this go forward longer than we thought it could. Thank you, Peter. You're one of them. Like it's just been nice to have other creative collaborations. That's made it continue to be interesting for both of us. But you know, we've also been working together for 11 years, and
I can't fucking stand
to see
it.
other people. It's time.
I
We should
can't.
see.
Peter,
We should see other fishermen.
Peter, if you want to start a magazine, we'll talk after this.
we've been best friends.
I need a new artist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think we've been best friends for most of it, and I feel most likely that
I've been your best friend.
Right. I feel most likely that I'm not sure we would continue to be very good friends if we continued to do the magazine much longer. Only because, you know, we both have our own things going on. We're both like relying on each other for stuff that neither one of us can deliver all the time. And it's like, I think we'd be better friends for longer if we weren't doing the magazine.
I don't know about that. I mean, for me, I don't know. For me, I guess
This ends here, Steve.
Yeah,
it's over.
Yeah, I don't know. For one thing, I think every creative project has an arc. You know what I mean? A beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And I think like 12 years of SCOF is like a lot. Like if you look at the body of content that we produced, and yes, we've had contributors, but also Steve and I have produced a fuckload of content just together. You know what I mean? Me and him. Like, and it's funny because we started going back through all the content and putting like having a copy and paste and put it in a WordPress form for like our website. And like I'm looking back over our stuff and there's stuff I don't even like. I was like, oh yeah, we did do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I don't even remember doing.
I don't even remember writing some of this stuff. I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty good writing. And then I'm like, oh, that's me. I didn't even realize it. Like I thought it was someone else writing it. You know, but it was from so long ago. So like I think like we've done 12 years. At what I think is a very high level. I've always been very proud of what we put out. Like we've never phoned it in on any story. Like just like even when it was last minute and we had to scramble, we still came up with something creative and executed it well.
There's a few times that Dave wrote about trips
that I didn't even go
that
on.
he didn't go on.
But the writer bailed out at the last minute.
Actually,
like,
all of the headlines.
Or he just said, or I went on a trip and took a lot of photos, and then I told Dave about everything, and he wrote the story.
There is a peacock bass story in the magazine that I wrote that I did not go. I sat at home during that whole trip and did not go. And the writer bailed out at the last minute. I'm like, tell me what happened and I'll create you a tale. But you know, like stuff like, but I was still proud of what I wrote. You know what I mean? I still think it reads good.
It does.
But so like I wouldn't want to ever get to the point where we were putting out stuff that we were less than super proud of.
That's kind of what we kept thinking of. We didn't want it to get.
I'd rather quit at the top of our game than drag it out and fuck, we started when I was 32 and Steve was 42. And now Steve's in his 50s and I'm in pushing middle 40s. I also don't want to be the dude like hanging out with like 16-year-old kids, like, hey man, let me buy you some beer. Let's go fishing. You know what I mean? Like, people change and times change. I still have the exact same sense of humor. And if you ask most people that know me, I'm still the exact same person I was when we started the magazine. But you know, I just think it's if you kind of like take an above view of it and look at SCOF on a timeline and what we've done and what we've accomplished, I think it creates a nice little bow on the package. You know what I mean? There's nothing I regret we didn't do. There's nothing I feel like we could have done better. It's nice and clean and wrapped up, and I'm okay with it. A lot of it for me too, man, is I got 2 kids. My son's 13 and my daughter is 8. And there's been a lot of questions from my children, like, why do you always go fishing with your buddies and never take us fishing? And I always tell them, because my buddies are more fun than you. And just be more fun and I'll take you more fishing more.
Yeah, come on, be more fun.
Just fucking hang out with dad. You don't smoke weed yet.
Right.
Start smoking and we'll get into it. But you know, like SCOF has co-opted a lot of like my free time. Like, because Steve and I both have other careers that we do full time. And SCOF has always been like kind of a passion project on the side for us. So like, it's co-opted enough of my free time that, especially with my son, since he's a little bit older, I don't want him to get into those shitty teenage years without me taking him on some of these adventures and showing him some of this rad shit that I've seen. You know what I mean? Like being down, we rent a house down in the Keys for December now, just so my kids can know what it's like to, like, how cool it is just to hang out in the Keys for a little bit of time and let your brain go and just be on the boat. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff's become more important to me since
then. And then maybe they'll even be into fly fishing someday.
Maybe. And another thing, Peter, honestly, man, is we've talked about it. We don't know, like, if a digital magazine really is the way to go forward in the future. If you're going to be in digital media and fly fishing, like, everything's gone so video, like at this point, like even all the writers I know are writing for video. You know what I mean?
Long format. Who's reading? Who's reading more than a page?
I contribute to the Fly Fish Journal, and I will now more now after SCOF is over because I'll have more time. But like, I still love good long form writing. Like, there's still essays, like Steve Duda, the old editor of Fly Fish Journal, he wrote this essay about swallows, like the little birds that eat dry flies around bridges. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read, and it's just a magazine article, but I find myself revisiting it, like I revisit like the great authors of time. You know what I mean? I don't know if that has a path forward. I hope it does. But I also don't know if it's in a flip page digital magazine format. I would love to see like a really cool independent video magazine come out. You know what I mean? That was a collection of short form videos that were put together with some sort of editorial, you know, at least not oversight, but, you know, thought process. And I think that would be the next evolution of kind of what fly fishing magazines are kind of moving towards anyway. You know what I mean? And when you look at what Jared's done with Fly Lords, that if you want to make money in the industry, that's the path to go forward, is a lot of corporate, you know, advertorial, you know, big social media prep, huge social media is king prep as far as the presence goes. And Steve and I are old guys. I don't know if I want to be on Instagram fucking shilling shit 3 times a day and doing what it takes to get 100, 200,000 followers. Like, I'd rather go fish.
You're gonna see you on TikTok anytime soon.
I can still do this one.
I would just rather see the magazine and
die
before people
figure us out.
Well, no, just even before people like talk about it as a magazine that used to be good.
Yeah. You never want to stay around too late at the party.
I feel like we're going out in a good place.
Yeah. And and it's not like we're getting out of it altogether, like I know I've got some stuff planned coming up that's kind of making the transition from doing more freelance projects and kind of doing some like collaborative work with people that, I've met through the years that I've always wanted to get together with and do stuff, but kind of never worked out for the magazine. And Steve, I'm sure like I'll hire him, like he'll get hired for at least my articles to do photography. We're still a pretty good duo that way. So
Yeah, I might do a few things.
yeah. And his art's so busy now, he doesn't have time for little old me anymore.
Yeah, because Steve is having more and more exhibitions also in Europe now.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's like me, I'm going fishing. Well, actually, I'm leaving for Wyoming for 2 weeks tomorrow to go kill some shit and fish. Hopefully I come back with
I am
freezers
not
full of
going
meat.
on this trip.
But you'll be able to see him in the next magazine, in the last issue. I got a
I'm
story.
sure Dave and guns and vans, that's just a bad combination.
Don't forget the mushrooms.
He's gonna lose his keys, gonna lose, who knows?
Oh yeah, I mean, what could go
wrong?
12 days in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, with a van full of guns and fishing rods. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Magazine founders die in tragic hunting accident.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh.
So, but yeah, so that's why we're ending it. I mean, we, everyone keeps asking us, like, why don't you just sell it? And we keep asking everyone, do you want to buy it?
Sell what?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what is it? Like that we could possibly sell.
Yeah, why aren't you selling it? Or we get that a bit. You're just gonna end it?
We did have an interesting party approach us recently.
We only had one offer.
This is
It wasn't even an offer.
This is the first time I've told this story. But so this has been ongoing for the past few weeks.
Exclusive.
So I started getting all my social media DMs blowed up by this dude. He's like, I want to talk to you about the magazine and like, are you ending it? Maybe we could do something, like make you an offer to keep it going in some form. I'm like, okay, sure. And like he hit me in every single social media, and then he found my number from a mutual friend and started texting me. I'm like, okay, dude. So I called him, and he works for fieldethos.com, which I didn't know who they were either. They're a hunting website, and I fish more than I hunt. I hunt for meat, and that's pretty much it. Not for trophy or ego or any shit like that. But he's like, yeah, I call him. I still don't know who he is. I call him and I'm like, hey man, you guys still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
All right.
We've lost everybody's video now. Oh,
But there he is. But he's like, yeah, I'm with fieldethos.com. We really like what you guys do. You kind of have that, snarky attitude we dig. and I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, would you guys be interested in something? Like, I'd be like, listen, if there's money involved, sure, we'll talk. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna set up a call for the rest of the board at Field Ethos, and we'll have a video call later. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get off the call, and I go online, I look up Field Ethos, I start going through the board, and it's a bunch of guys from like old hunting magazines, like Peterson's, Bow Hunting, and like hunting media outlets I'm familiar with. And then I get to the chairman of the board, and it's Donald Trump Jr. And I was like, holy fuck, what the fuck? So yeah, so I kind of went on a catfishing expedition with him just to see what would happen. And I had a video call with all these dudes, a former NFL player from my hometown. He's on the board. I got to tell him what's up for the Super Bowl appearance, and that he sucked for losing.
No. I lost internet. Internet's gone.
I got you.
Yep.
Bro.
I'm back.
I've got you, but they've dropped. They dropped. yeah, I think at the moment when you realised it, I think they've stuck.
Peter, even though we are live, basically people are in the other link.
Yeah.
And,
I think I'm recording this. We're posting this.
But you know what? I wrote a link on YouTube, and just YouTube blocked me because I'm a spammer.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, man, I'm struggling.
What's with these social media platforms, man?
There it is.
There we are.
Yeah, cool.
Hello again.
It's back.
Right. Well, we're back on.
So, is there a life after SCOF, or just fly fishing?
Fishing without the need to create content.
That
Sounds
will be
pretty
weird
good.
for once. You'll be able to just get in
It'll
the
be
car,
so
drive
nice, man.
somewhere, go fishing, and not think about anything.
And no one takes a picture of shit the entire time.
Yeah, maybe not bring a camera.
No one says pull over so I can run my drone for a little bit. Like, none of this, like spending 40 minutes with a fish in every angle you could possibly conceive.
But keep them wet, eh? Keep them wet.
Dude, Dave Faison, a photographer of ours, I was in Arkansas with him. He showed me this trick. You, if you have grass in the river, you get them in the net and then you lay them down in the net. Like if the grass is almost at the surface, you lay them down in the grass and it'll push them so they're still wet. They completely calm out. It's like some weird Jedi mind trick on them. Like, and then you can like get whatever shots you want, but they just stay completely calm on the grass. Like the grass on their underbelly just completely calms them out. I'd never seen it before. It was wild.
See, we don't have to do that anymore.
And now we don't have to do that anymore. I have all this knowledge I'll never use now.
We don't have to do that now.
Maybe you can just even stop fly fishing and pick up golf.
It's really good.
No, I actually, honestly, I wound up taking more pictures. Yeah, exactly. I wound up taking more pictures for the magazine than I ever intended to. Like kind of Steve moved to Florida just because sometimes I had to shoot for a writer or I had to shoot my own stuff. And I'm kind of looking forward to, I'm going to take some photography classes online and actually learn about my camera and how to use it instead of like just composing a shot and pressing the button. So
It's a good idea.
yeah,
It's not a bad idea.
I'm good at composing shots. I have no idea how to technically use a camera though. So that'll be nice.
Did you fish
learn
like
that
Yeah, exactly.
did you fish from like 8 years old, or did you get into it later on?
I started fishing when I was really young. I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Pretty. But didn't start fly fishing until my 20s. So
Yeah, and then I'm first generation Russian American. So my parents immigrated in the 70s. So they didn't fish and had no time or aptitude to take me fishing. They're Russian. So yeah, my buddy's grandfather, my best friend's grandfather, he was a big fly fisherman, and he was nice enough to let me tag along with my best friend when they'd go fishing some. But I didn't really start like I never spin fished, so I just learned to fly fish from when I was a kid. I started fly fishing, but I wouldn't say like I really learned to fish. Like I got real serious about it probably in my teens. Like when I was 16, 17, I got obsessed with it, and kind of all through college and after college, I guided on and off. So yeah.
So it's the same, man. They get you at when you're like 8 or 9. If you started fishing by then you're fucked for life.
Dude, I mean, yeah. I mean, both my kids have had fly rods in their hands before they could walk, and both of them like caught trout on fly before they were 4 or 5. But I'm not pushing it on them hard either. You know, I don't want to be that dad, so we'll see where it goes. I think my daughter's way more into it than my son. She's the one who begs me to go. My son's like, okay, I'll go. You know, so. Yeah.
All right, I think that about covers it all, right?
So, Peter.
So where are we going fishing next?
Yeah,
Pretty much. I don't,
Peter, I want you to come to America, my friend, and I want to show you all my golden valleys and my Auburn peaks.
well, and in the spring, I'm coming fishing with you, right?
Yeah.
What do you, if you could fish anywhere in America for anything, what do you want to do?
Phew. I will probably take a plane to Bozeman
You want to do
and
Montana?
get a big fat truck and explore Montana. I have a thing for Montana somehow. I don't know why.
Have you ever been there?
But there's one big bucket list fish on top of everything, which is redfish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Dude, we need to meet up.
Really, really,
We need to
probably
meet
my-
up in New
my
Orleans.
favorite.
New Orleans in November, December. We'll eat better. Well, you're from Europe, so we'll eat just as good as you've ever eaten anywhere in Spain. But the red fishing, go to New Orleans. We'll meet up in New Orleans. We'll bring a boat over and we'll do it.
Because
Yeah.
I'm first of all a saltwater fly fisherman, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've never had the experience of getting on a skiff and sight
Oh,
fishing for
you'll
redfish.
get-
That's something nothing
I tried-
comparable is in Europe.
I
Yeah.
tried to get you down to Florida when I was living there.
Yeah. And now
My
you're
boat's-
gone. It's
boat's
and now
still
you're
there.
gone. It's ruined.
Well, my boat's still there, so we could meet down there, you know.
Well, lucky for you, my parents just built a house on the west side of Florida, right in the best tarpon area on the west side. And my boat's going to be down there in the garage. So we can still make that happen.
Yeah, it could still happen.
Let's make it. happen.
Let me add, I don't get to talk to Europeans that much. I have questions.
Yes. Shoot.
Yes, we have questions.
With it,
Like simple Americans.
is there like a prevailing, stereotype for American fly fishermen?
Ooh.
Bobbers.
I assume it includes wear.
Bob-
Dentist. The word dentist comes to
Bobbers.
mind.
Do they all wear plaid?
Bulbous? Fat as shit?
Sorry,
We are that.
no, as in an indicator, like indicator
bobber
nymphing.
fishermen.
Bobbers.
Bobber
Sorry,
fishermen.
my accent clearly got in the way.
Yeah. I like bulbous too. That works because we do have an obesity problem in America.
But yeah, the bobber fishing, yeah.
Bobber fishing. It's funny, like when you go out west, nobody fishes bobbers. I mean, a few fisheries, but like most guides out there, here's a good example. Like when Steve and I went out there last time, our buddy guides in Missoula and we went with him. And because we're Southern fly fishermen, we know how to nymph. We're good nymphers, right? We fucked fish up on nymphs when we were in Missoula fishing the Bitterroot, the Blackfoot, Clark Fork, and all that. His roommate was the guide, had two sports on the boat, and all they did was fish hoppers all day, and they didn't catch
That's the
shit.
dropper.
So our buddy, they're comparing days, and the guy's like, my buddy's friend who didn't catch shit was like, man, I wish my guys would have known how to nymph. Like you never hear that shit out west. Like we get looked down upon it out west when we go out there. I swear to God, because at a certain point of the day, you can only force feed fish, dry fly so much. And I'm out west and I want to catch fish. So I'm like, fuck it. Let's throw on a double nymph rig with a big old stone fly and a big old jig head pheasant tail. And let's mess them up, dude. And these guys look like I kicked it, like I'm trying to steal their wives' panties straight out from them. Like it's insane how offended they get. So it's not all American fishermen, but I feel what you're saying there. Yeah. Bobber fishermen.
Is there any European fly fishing stereotype that comes to mind?
I think it used to be all European fly fishermen got lumped into English fly fishermen.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So like private water, dry fly only, like river keepers that watch you like a hawk, like all that shit. 'Cause I've had buddies.
That bullshit exists, man. Like for real.
Oh, I know it's real. The
Like,
struggle is real. I know.
crazy. Yeah.
Brexit
I think
solved that though.
that shit exists in America too. You know what I mean? Privatization of public rivers in this country is our new access problem that we're fighting here. Like they're trying to make everything private for rich assholes, for only rich assholes.
There's no pompous standard for fishing barbel though.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Peter?
See, you guys never got looked down upon for fishing rough fish. It was just part of your program. In America, guys that fish carp were looked at like white trash.
Yeah, why are you fishing for carp? Yeah.
Yeah, but that distinction, that kind of
fishing for carp. I don't know why they think that.
The kind of distinction between they're like game fish and coarse fish, like game fish and noble fish, like salmon, that kind of trout, that kind of thing, and like coarse fish are like rough fish. And so the fishermen who fish them, there's also a class association. I don't know if something sort of, you know, is similar in the States, but I think what you're saying about that. Are they there? Is it me?
No, it's
you're here.
Okay, sorry, we got a bit cut off. I just saying about privatization of public waters. Now, isn't something in the legislation about navigability has been the argument with that? I remember something from the penultimate issue. Which,
it's actually in the Commonwealth of Virginia, which isn't even a state. It's Commonwealth, which don't even get me started on that. I went to college up there. But I used to fish this river. It's God, what's it called? I'm brain farting on it now. I haven't fished it. So the Jackson River in Virginia. They built a big private neighborhood on the Jackson, like $1 million plus homes, and they marketed it as a fly fishing community for wealthy people. Well, everyone used to float through that section, and most of America kind of falls into two water laws. Whether if it's either a high water mark state, where if it's a navigable river, it's public up to the high water mark. Even if the high water mark is dry, wherever the high water mark of the river, as long as you access it legally, you can walk the high water mark for miles and miles publicly. Then there's parts of states in America where if you own both sides of the river, no matter whether it's navigable or not, you own the river, the rocks, and everything in it, and you can't touch foot on it. In Virginia, it used to be a high water state. Now, what this neighborhood did was they found the original deeds dating back to the 1700s from England, and under King George's law, if you own the land under the riverbed, you not only own the riverbed, the rocks, the water, you own the fish and the birds that fly above the river. Thank you, England, for that. And they started enforcing it. So the case went to court. It was actually a Christian minister who fly fishes. He went with his buddy, basically got arrested for the sake to go to court on it. And Virginia found and it kept up the King's Grants laws. And so now other states have tried to, there's other, like the tailwaters, and you guys have tailwaters, you know what tailwaters are. It's the same language. Our tailwaters that we fish a lot are in East Tennessee, and the banks have become bought up by very wealthy people. And now there have been rumblings about those people talking about King's Grant laws in Tennessee rivers. So it's becoming a whole messed up nightmare for us.
I mean, I would, yeah. I mean, this is a serious, like broken up landholdership. I mean, in Europe, in Switzerland, or say in Italy, the water is sort of public, right? The rivers are owned. You don't own people don't own the rivers, right? In the UK, it's much more divided on a much older system of land ownership, where it's the same legal principle, except here it's if you own one bank, you own to the middle. Right. That's where you own, and you own to the other side. So it was, I think, never claimed by the state, by a federal state in the same way. And the fragmentation makes sort of, I mean, it's partly you get these sort of beats and sort of fishing sections split up because they're extremely valuable, but also, it splits up habitats. Yeah, no, it's really I think.
Well, and don't get me wrong, like the conservation aspect of privatizing a river, and it's probably going to get taken care of better. There's something to be said for that. Don't get me wrong. The thing here is that our fisheries, even our Western fisheries, are artificial fisheries. Our brown trout came from Germany. Every rainbow trout in America came from California. On the East Coast where we are, the only native trout isn't a trout, it's a char. It's an eastern brook trout. You know what I mean? So what are we really talking about here? Like this brown trout we transplanted from Germany 150 years ago is going to have a better life. Great. Or more people can enjoy the resource, and more people in the end give a shit about the resource and take care of it for the generations to come. So, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we should launch an ecological discussion, but I guess like if biodiversity and habitat is the heart of it, then taking care of it is good for the fishery. There can be benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. There can be benefits. I tend to believe when it comes to river ecology that every time we step in, all we do is fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Anytime we try to like introduce a predator to eat some invasive, the predator goes out of control and we mess it up. Yeah. Like rainbows out west are crossbreeding out cutthroats. That's man-made problems to the point where when you go to Idaho, there's a bounty on rainbows. Like in America in fly fishing, we've had such a catch and release culture for so many years. It's almost shocking to your senses when you get to a boat ramp and they want the head and the spine of every rainbow and they'll give you $10 for it in the mail. You know what I mean? Like you're like, holy shit, I can eat a trout? I've never heard of such a thing. But so like the brook trout here, when we introduced brown trout and rainbow trout, they outcompete the brook trout.
Yeah.
Brook trout were pushed higher and higher and higher up in the mountains into worse and worse habitat. So I think there's a case to be made for let's just stop messing with it and Mother Nature will take care of itself. Like for the best sake of Mother Nature. I also think there's a case to say for Florida, where let's mess it up as much as humanly possible for our own entertainment, but let's just
see what
keep
survives.
it in Florida. Exactly.
But so are most of these rivers still stocked, or is it are these brown trouts from sustainable set of specimens?
Where we live in North Carolina, we have 3,000 miles of designated trout water within 60 miles of Asheville. So just a ton of trout water. I'd say, and we range, like we have high mountain streams that are completely wild browns, rainbow, brook trout when you get really high. We also have hatchery supported streams that, get stocked periodically. We have what's called a delayed harvest program, where they get stocked, but it's catch and release for 9 months of the year. And then the harvest opens up on it so you can keep fish. The tailwaters that Steve and I fish mostly, they haven't stocked brown trout in it in either one for about 20 years. So it's all natural brown trout reproduction and very high fish counts. I'd say the rainbow populations in there are 40 to 50% wild, 50% stocked. A lot of those fish that get stocked up there, they naturalize real quick. So by year 2, it's hard to tell. Their fins are back, they got color to them, their noses aren't rubbed off from the concrete raceways and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, we are like around here, you grow up fishing a lot of stock fish. It's a good place to learn your craft. You know what I mean? Like to a certain degree, like they don't act like normal fish. You almost got to like fish them as stockers and develop a stalker strategy for them. But, like those skills, finding fish and sight fishing.
They're not very smart.
No, they're just not that smart. But our brown trout are awesome. Arkansas probably has a better brown trout fishery than East Tennessee. The upper Delaware up in New England, I would say right up there. Alberta, ours, East Coast among those three, and better than anything in Pennsylvania, without a doubt.
So moving back to North Carolina,
brown
Steve.
Trout in America, it just down giant brown trout. Go to Arkansas, White River, Little Red River. It's the most ridiculous brown trout fishery in the world. Not the most scenic, but the most ridiculous. And, they're wild brown.
So Steve, are you getting used to fishing for trout, or do you still miss the salt every day?
I'm still missing the salt, actually. I am. I've gone out a couple times though and fished since I've been here, and it's been fun. It's nice. It's it is really pretty to float down the river, so it's quite nice down the river. But I miss that kind of fishing that I do in Florida. Just kind of stalking fish
You didn't start chucking streamers yet.
and running around the lagoon, and
Steve's a
I'll still do it. I think I'm gonna be going down in a couple of weeks if there's any in Florida after this hurricane that's hitting them right now, or just hit them yesterday.
Yeah, is it bad or
It is actually. It was pretty bad on the west side.
yeah, worst storm they've had in 20 or 30 years.
And it went straight across the state today and last night, and it's, you know, it's definitely some damage waiting to see how bad, but I think the worst is on the west side. There's an island, Sanibel Island, that no longer has a bridge to it. So that's something.
And it's supposed to jump back out onto the East Coast and hit Charleston.
Yeah, it's
pretty bad.
jumping back out and then coming back. So it's gonna hit some other city now. So
ouch?
it's definitely a bad storm.
Yeah.
It was nice not to be there this time. It's still a bad storm.
Not that most people care though, but the fishing will be really good right after the storm.
After all the rest of like the docks and the logs float down the river and get out of the way
Yeah.
of boats,
The fishing will be really
the
good.
fishing's gonna be really good.
Yeah, and a lot of natural reefs with all the rumble.
Just gotta get rid of all those docks floating down,
Yeah. And houses and trucks.
you know, just all the stuff that's now in the water. Hopefully it won't be too bad.
I'm just glad my Stevie made it back safe to the mountains before all that happened.
I'm back safe in the mountains.
In the bosom of Mother Appalachia.
What about you, Peter? What are you doing?
I've been sea fishing a lot lately, actually. There's a lot of
Yeah.
I've been hopping sandbanks,
Nice.
so a lot of sea bass, a lot of bluefish, corbinas,
Cool.
bailas. Been making Spanish because I moved to south of Spain. I've made a lot of Spanish fishing buddies now, and yeah, I'm enjoying discovering new
You
fisheries
guys-
over here.
Do you eat a lot of ham? Get to eat a lot of ham there.
Look at
I know you
this.
do. Hello?
Hello,
Yeah.
hello.
Hello, oh, there you are.
Look at this. Of course, I eat a lot of ham. My body is
Yeah.
50% ham now.
Oh, God. That's all I do.
If you can get any in the mail, we'll be really glad to accept that package, but you have to disguise it as something else, I think.
Yeah, I think they'll be thrilled to see meats, cold cuts in the mail.
I don't know if you can see this, but my home screen is Hamon from Steve's last trip. My wife's like, you don't have a picture of the kids on there? I'm like, no, ham. Ham.
A lot of
Peter,
ham.
do you guys get migratory like tuna that go past the, do you guys get like migratory like tuna that go past Spain?
Tuna, bonitos, everything.
You get
Yeah,
them going past the UK coast as well, or more
Do you?
recently.
that's interesting. We do, we call them false, we call the bonita, and bonita, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. We call them false albacore here in North Carolina, but down in Florida, they call them bonita with an A.
Ah,
But they're like little tuna that have the bloodline that nobody eats, but they blitz and fight like a motherfucker. That'd be cool to do that in Europe.
That would be cool.
they eat them a lot over here, actually. They call them melva.
Really? Just cut out the bloodline and serve it fresh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and people don't eat bluefish here for the same reason. But I've had bluefish fresh and it's delicious.
It
As long
is.
as it doesn't sit, as long as it doesn't sit around, it's delicious.
It's really good as sashimi.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Yeah,
You just don't want to have it laying around. You just need to eat it the same day.
yeah, cook it up that night and it's delicious. Yep. We
I
did
mean, catch
fried-
and release.
So
We did,
do you think-
fried-
I had no idea. people
Lacey
ate
did
bluefish.
fried bluefish down in Homosassa,
You
remember?
did? That was bluefish?
That was bluefish. It was delicious.
Hmm.
It was the first time I ate one. I was like, holy shit, I should have been eating all of them.
I didn't realize.
Well, not all of them because, sustainability.
Yeah, well, not all of them.
Not all of them. Anyway.
So now that we started talking about killing fish, I think this is a good time to wrap this up.
Good time.
I have a question for you guys. Yeah, finally I'm in. I was working on YouTube, but anyway,
We lost you there for a second.
But I've been lucky to fish quite a lot of tailwaters in the West, and I was wondering, and I think about two tailwaters particularly, the San Juan and the Green River, and you have hundreds, if not thousands, of fish, and the spawning grounds are limited, right? And my question is, do you think that the management is stocking fish to maintain this status of gold medal water, blue ribbon, and ecology is taken apart?
It's a tough question because I fish the Green a lot. I haven't been to the San Juan, but I know it's an aquarium like the Green is. I can, let me put it this way. Let me frame it in my tailwater at home, just because I'm more intimately knowledgeable of it. We've all kind of agreed that there was, like, because of the wild brown trout, and we wanted to propagate so many wild brown trout, we put in oxygenation weirs to make the water more DO2 and everything. And, like, spawning grounds were closed off to protect them for 2 months of the year. We used to have a lot bigger fish on our brown trout on our tailwater. We now have a lot more cookie cutter 9 to 10 inch fish. The Green section A has always been kind of that small, a ton of fish, a lot smaller fish. Once you get down into section C and what people are calling section D now, which I got buddies that started fishing, you don't get the fish counts, but you get predatory big browns. I think in tailwaters, to a certain degree, it's always that way. Like, and it depends, but not every tailwater is the same, obviously. Like our tailwater and both of our good tailwaters end on two different arms of the same lake. So, like, we get lake run browns that come up river to spawn, and in the fall you'll get these huge fish that like you have to say they were from the lake. You know what I mean? There's no way that fish was living in the river year round. On the other hand, we had a big periodical cicada hatch 2 summers ago, the 17-year brood, and it finally made it over to our good trout tailwaters for the first time. And I mean, we were sticking 20 to 27 inch browns in water in the middle of the day that you could not have convinced me that fish lived there. You know what I mean? So I think some of it is we as fishermen aren't always going on the best information of what we're seeing in anecdotally. You know what I mean? Because we're only seeing 5% of what actually is going on under the water in the fishery. On the other hand, sometimes it's hard to deny, like, if it's year after year after year, like I see on my tailwater, you got to start asking the question, what the fuck's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So listen, the biggest myth of the Rocky Mountain West is that it's all wild fish. They stock the shit out of Rocky Mountain West. Colorado, Utah, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, everyone stocks out there. The difference is when we stock in the South, we stock triploid fish, which are fish that genetically their they're sexually non-reproductive. So all that energy they take reproducing, they just eat and get really, really big. And when you see these southern private water fish that look like footballs with their faces smushed in, that's what those fish are. Out west, they do stock breeding fish. So it's a lot harder to tell what you're catching, whether that fish was stuck there, or he'd been there for a while, or he was stream born, I would say. So I don't know. The older I get, the more I realize, like, all those dudes that used to tell me how good it was back in the day, like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean? Like, to a certain degree, it was always better in your mind than it is when it's shitty that day. It was always better 10 years ago on that day,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't know. So I guess that'd be my thing on it.
Yeah, that seems good.
Yeah, if I learned one thing from pike fishing on the fly,
Yeah.
it's to cast in every dirty little channel and nook because there might be a pike there. I've caught pikes from the smallest little ditches. It's insane.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, you just never know with those stupid fish. Yeah. Absolutely. Juvenile tarpon the same way, like in ditches, you just never know.
Yeah.
Do
They're
you
everywhere.
prefer juvenile tarpon over like the big ones?
I do.
I
Yeah,
just caught my first
You like
big
the
tarpon.
jumpy, don't you?
Yeah.
I just like how you can just find them all over and feed them and play with them, and it's not like a 40-minute endeavor every time you hook one. So
Yeah, I just landed my first 100 plus actually like a couple months ago down with Steve before he moved from Florida. It was our last trip down there, and that was a pretty cool experience. I'm not gonna lie, like the realization you have when you realize how big that fish is and what you're in for is. Yeah, I was also thinking by the end of it, I don't want to do this today again. It's a lot of fucking work, man. Like I was sweating. Steve's pouring water on top of my head. I got like the sewing machine arm going by the end of it. And then our buddy Noah, who's like the guy down there, and Steve's buddy, he's like, you're not even like working that fish hard, dude. I'm like, I'm putting everything I have into it. I'm like, I don't know what else I can do, dude. I'm like, the tip's touching the butt of the rod. You need to put the boat in gear and hit it in reverse.
The power of those, I mean, I've only ever hooked into tarpon once in Costa Rica. And she was way too big. She was over that. She was like 130 or something like that. And like the fucking explosion was crazy. In the jungle. It's narrow. And I mean, and then everything went to shit, and like the line got caught up, and like that was it, right? Yeah. And it went, but it was way too big. Like on reflection, like never could have done it. Something was going to go wrong. I mean, what a thing,
dude! And like when you start going out with guides who really know tarpon, they'll tell you like, oh shit, you shouldn't have hooked that one, like because we're going to be here all day. Like this is going to take all day. No one else is going to get to fish. Like it's just now an all day affair.
That's a thing we always think about American fly anglers. Everywhere destination anglers go that are from US, the guides are too expensive.
The guides are too expensive?
Yeah, it's like every time Americans find out about a fly destination, the prices go up.
We drive up all the prices everywhere. It's not us though. It's the dentists and doctors and lawyers. It's not me and Steve.
Yeah, it's not us.
No,
does that converge with the people who bobber fish at home?
Oh yeah, completely. I had really rich dudes love to bobber fish up in East Tennessee. They don't discriminate. Yeah. Well, it's also weird because like I guided too. So like on one hand, I need rich assholes to pay me to take them fishing. On the other hand, when I go fishing, I don't want to see any of those people out there, and I make fun of them when I do. So it's a double-edged sword, and I don't know which way it cuts one day to the next.
It's still very exciting though. I started out fishing as a kid with a bobber, with a little bamboo stick and a line. Fuck, is one of the most exciting things in the world to see a bobber go like tick, tick, tick.
One of my favorite ways to spend a day on a boat is drifting down a river with a bobber in one hand, a beer in the other, put the beer down, pick up the joint, put the beer down, and you just bobber fish. And you catch them.
Speaking of beer,
it's not that hard to do this.
Speaking of beer, PBR features a fair bit in SCOF, but is it always PBR?
Has it always been what?
PBR.
Oh yeah, man, for me. There was a period in college I did Old Milwaukee. But I don't know, like we live in a town that has like 40 microbreweries, like that really takes pride on all these like really hoppy, heavy beers. And I drink a lot of beer and I enjoy drinking a lot of beer. So, PBR is just a nice, easy go down. on a hot day, when it's cold out of the cooler, it tastes delicious. It doesn't fuck up my stomach where I'm shitting my brains out for 3 days after, like if I'm drinking really dark beer, a lot of really dark beer. But like, so I mean, I was in Belize with Steve, and we get they like, you know, we're at the lodge the night before. They ask you like what you want for lunch and how many beers you want in the cooler and all that shit. And so I was like, and it's Bellican, so it's like water, you know, that Belizean beer. And I was like, oh shit, you know, I'll take 20 of them for the day. And they're like, for you and Steve. I'm like, oh, I don't know what Steve wants. That's for me. They're like, oh, so you can really drink beer, Dave? I was like, yeah, I really can. I'm Russian, you know? And they're like, oh, you might want to go for the record, the lodge record. I'm like, what the fuck is the lodge record? He's like, this other Russian guy was down here like last year and he did 74 Bellicans in one day.
Challenge accepted.
I was like, fucking sign me up. So I had a case of Bellicans delivered to my door that morning that I got at 5 a.m. and drank like 12. And then I had a case on the boat and another case waiting for me on the dock. I made it to 54 before I started drinking rum at the bar that night because I had to have something besides beer. And the rum put me over the top, and my wife was on that trip as well and made me quit.
Ouch.
But I was only 20 away. Next time I'm not taking the wife, and I'm going for 84. I'm going up and beyond. But no, PBR is a delicious beer. It won the Great American Beer Festival in 1872.
Can you think of how many times you've read that on the can?
Oh, so many, dude. So many.
But in the hundreds of thousands by now, do you think?
I consider myself a fan of shitty beer wherever I go, though. Like when I'm out west, I drink Rainier. When I'm down in Mexico, I drink Tecate. You know, I'm sure you guys have shitty beer that I drink if I came to your places. Like, what's a shitty English? Like, what's a shitty English beer? Just
Heineken.
For drinking.
Heineken.
Yeah, I agree.
Heineken. See, in the States, everyone thinks Heineken's fancy.
Oh yeah, that's crap.
Amstel, I guess, would be one.
Yeah, which in the end is Heineken as well.
Does Amstel have a non-light beer?
Oh yeah, Heineken's
Dutch
too. Right?
See, but I draw my shitty beer line at light beer. I can't drink light beer. It's too watery for me. I need a full-bodied shitty beer.
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, it tends to be European brands. I mean, I'm drinking Stella Artois.
Stella, right? Yeah.
Not an advert, but it's kind of marketed as sort of a slightly premium thing, like unfiltered. And then, you know, you get Kronenberg and all the rest, I suppose, Holsten Pills, things like that. Yeah. But yeah, they're trying to capture that trendy beer edge with this unfiltered lager stuff. But I mean, it's just Stella.
I think whenever we get Stella in the States, I think it's too old by the time we get it because it always fucking tastes and smells skunk to me every time I drink Stella like whenever it's the only like kind of like lager they have, but it always in the States it always smells skunked for some reason.
I mean, it has a reputation in the UK at least. The other name for Stella is wife beater. I mean, it's sort of associated with a kind of like violent mentality. I don't know why, but really? It's slightly stronger than other lagers. So you know, if you had a couple of Stellas, you're going to go over the edge.
It's kind of an alcoholic's beer, right?
Yeah, an alcoholic's beer would be like Super Tenants, which is about 9%, or something like that, like high strength beers. But yeah, no, it's just associated. Also, yeah, I don't know.
See, in the States, it's kind of more associated with like fancy boys. Like I guess because it's European and all Americans think.
Really? Like over here, it's the lowest of the low.
See, here it's like what discerning beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking microbrews. Like if they just want like, you know, a drinkable beer, they'll get a Stella. Like you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I bought this in the gas station.
It's a big airport.
It's nothing.
Oh yeah. No, I drink it. I'm not above Stella by any. The thing is in the States, you pay fucking $12 American for a 6-pack of Stella.
Really?
Yeah, dude, it's up to $12 at Ingles. For a 12-pack of PBR, $5.97 American.
Here's another one for you. This is Kettle One.
Yeah.
I like that one.
We're familiar with that.
Yeah. It's not vodka.
What is it?
It's Jenever. It's like a Dutch spirit, gin.
It's gin.
It's gin.
Oh,
But they just rebranded it to vodka to sell it to Americans.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's insane.
It's not vodka.
So
No,
does it say-
they
does it
changed
say
it.
vodka on
They
the bottle?
changed it a bit to make it taste more like vodka, but it's a young gin, so like a relatively tasteless gin. And because Americans were not familiar with Jenever, which is Dutch gin, they just rebranded it to it's vodka.
Well, I mean, it's where gin comes from. Like the British took it from the Dutch. It's
Yeah.
also where the phrase Dutch courage comes from the British soldiers who were in the Netherlands in like lost in the fog and a totally fucked up campaign who like were just smashing the Geneva. Dutch courage.
Huh. That's interesting. Never knew that. I knew it came from juniper berries.
Yeah, and isn't that that's juniper in Dutch, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense now.
Gotcha.
I'm
I
so
think it's
unworldly.
just I think it's just that the Brits couldn't pronounce Jenever. They made it into gin.
Fucking Brits.
Fucking Brit.
Fucking Brits.
Sorry, we've done a lot of bad shit. I hold my hands up.
No, I blame you for Canada.
Can't be
That's my
that
main.
bad.
That's my main beef.
How do you blame them for Canada now?
Because
To
that's
be
where they
fair,
stuck down after we threw them out.
Yeah, okay.
To be fair, like, yeah, it was all pretty bad. Like, you know, let's not forget everywhere else.
Yeah, I know.
Fishing is nice in
Well,
Canada, though.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you're also
in the modern era, we
welcome
Americans
to
are
fly
picking up the
fishing.
mantle for you quite nicely.
I mean, for the invention of modern fly fishing and dry fly fishing and the rest of it, like you're welcome.
I know. But don't you
But
think
to be fair, the fishing is not. I mean, fishing is not like great in the UK, and particularly rivers are having hard times, driest in like 50 years, and
Right.
you know a lot of the stuff that you get. Yeah, I mean, they're all the kind of famous tests, like all those fisheries. They're all basically put and take. You know, you see the vans going early. In the
Really?
morning. You know,
Really?
like, you know that footage. Well, for instance, like, yeah, you get sections. You know, you'll get. You know, it's like as wide as my living room. It goes up about 20 meters, and there's like 50 like fish holding there. Most of them are trophy fish.
Right.
That's not natural. That ecosystem can't support it. Like it's a
Right.
totally falsified, like falsified sort of world. And there is some good wild stuff, and you know, good stuff in Wales and places like that. But you know, it's nothing like this kind of like tailwater. This, you know, or like these massive hog fish. That's hard. Like the biggest wild fish, you know, there's one river in South London that's been a restoration, and there's like the biggest wild fish I've seen in there. But they're only there because they got reintroduced after a chemical spill destroyed the river. Like, you know, this kind of idea of this like English sort of like Arcadia for fly fishing is just, yeah, it's an illusion.
Well, at least in America, Hardy's still doing a fine job of promoting it that way.
Yeah, and I can tell you, you'd be disappointed if you were to book yourself a couple of days with a guide. Sort of, I'm not going to say by what.
Yeah,
but
yeah, you know, I just saw today that Yellow Dog, like our big travel, you know, international booker, they just started an Ireland program.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Ireland a couple of weeks ago by the Boyne, and I mean, I was on a trip with my brother. I didn't have a rod, stupidly, but I mean, yeah, it was. You could see it looked like a pretty good trout fishery. So
yeah,
I think Ireland might be worth exploring. I mean, I don't know whether that's stocked there, but there's a lot of water everywhere.
Yeah. I'm hoping to go on my first Atlantic salmon trip. I've never been able to do that. I'm going to go up to Quebec. Hopefully next fall or maybe the fall after. But yeah, I'd like to, I don't know. And it's just such a romanticized version of it, but like fishing Atlantic salmon somewhere, you know, in the UK, like on a beat, it seems like something you should do before you die, like with a scotch and a cigar. And I'd have to buy tweeds, I suppose.
And that's really
you can borrow some,
and that's why why I don't feel attracted to it at all.
But come on, it'd be fun to do one day. It's like when tattoo artists go out golfing. It just doesn't make any sense, but it's fun.
Yeah,
I mean, but I tell you, it'll be.
what we did again, Peter, and go fishing in Portugal, but actually maybe get a few fish this time.
That's your problem. You always want to catch fish.
I mean, that was cool. to go out.
Actually, I managed to I got the trick now.
Oh yeah.
And what we were casting for it was a different type of barbel.
They were the wrong kind of barbel. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a mullet run going on, and there was like sea bass smashing mullets, but me and Steve were not getting a bite.
It happens.
But it was cool. We need to go do that again, explore that river.
It was good. It's just like getting up early enough to keep the wives happy.
Yeah.
So you're back on time for like a late brunch.
Oh yeah, my whole family's pissed off at you guys because now I'm bringing a fly rod on our next European family vacation.
Where are you
Before
going?
they were like, that's the one safe place we can go where Dad won't fish.
I did it.
I'm like, oh no, not anymore. I got friends in Europe now, motherfuckers.
Where are you going?
Probably in a few years when the kids are a little bit older and they'll actually appreciate it.
I drove through when I drove through like in Spain through the mountains. So it's Pyrenees. What is the mountains?
Pyrenees.
Pyrenees.
There's
There
a
was-
couple of them.
There's like rivers there that really look just like here. I swear. The
You might,
rivers, the hills, the tree, like the winding roads. So like it felt like being in these mountains.
It's actually some of the
You
best
might-
trout fish. Honestly, it's some of the best trout fishing. Sorry, guys, in Europe is in north of Spain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You think? That's kind of where I was where were we? We were like north of Barcelona and then over in the mountains.
Yeah,
It's
and
pretty
if you
cool.
go more to the left, it's awesome.
Really?
But Pete, do you know that in I think it's Cantabria, you have also Atlantic salmon?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And we have Hucho, Danube salmon.
Oh, I want to
We have
catch
the-
one of those.
We have the only Danube salmon outside of the Danube basin in Spain, because there was like Franco the dictator made sure that there was all these like weird breeding projects. So there's a lot of like exotic wildlife here, and especially fish that's not supposed to be here.
Nice.
We have like I live very close to Sevilla. There's a shit ton of black bass just in the center, like really like
Really?
lunkers smashing full size mullets out of the water. Like,
See, even fascism has a silver lining.
and I think that's the main takeaway of this.
Exactly.
Do you not feel that kind of that weird multi-species from sort of multiple countries and continents thing is just so like at the heart of fly fishing, or places we fly fish? Not only the fish, but also like in places in the UK where you've got loads of sort of like Canada geese, and you might be in rivers where there's like koi carp, like somebody's released. I mean,
Right.
they're like all of them are kind of slightly mixed. Anyway, ecologies, Anyway, maybe. It's
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, basically we are all making ourselves believe in this like wild nature experience bullshit
Right.
that's not real at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like with us, like we got like, I guess it's an international organization, but PETA jumped on American fishermen pretty hard for like
really?
all the hooking and releasing, catching and releasing, we're causing mental torture to fish. And, and to a certain degree, the keep them wet thing, I agree we should treat fish well. Don't get me wrong. But I think we've kind of forgotten the point of fishing is to stab an animal in the face with a sharp object. So just by participating in fishing, it is a blood sport and things will die occasionally. So let's back it off of everyone's high horse. You know what I mean? Like we did a cover where I was holding out a sandwich, like a big hoagie, and it was keep them dry. And we got a little bit of backlash on that one. I was like, guys, you're stabbing fish in the face. Like that's the only purpose of this. Like it is a blood sport. Let's remember that. Let's do it like within reason and not like, be an asshole about it. Like Tom Rosenbauer will hate me for this, But I fished with him one time on a creek by me, and it was a stocked creek, stocked rainbows, you know. And it was the middle of winter, and it was like 4 degrees outside, and the river had frozen, and there was only like where the current was like 1 foot between banked ice, you know. And Tom's just yanking fish out of that run one after another, these little rainbows, and it was so cold. He was just wiggling the fish off the hook onto the ice shelf and kicking them back into the river in the space of the ice shelf. I'm like, holy shit, I'm watching Tom Rosenbauer kick the shit out of stocking rainbows. And I look at him like, Tom, that is not the best fish treatment I have ever seen in my life. He's like, dang, they're stocker fucking rainbows. Take a breath. I think a lot of us need to have more of that attitude.
Actually, what I do like about
and luckily the magazine's ended, so I don't need Orbit's advertisement anymore.
What I do like about
bill, so I'm good.
What I do like about Tom Rosenbauer is that he has like one of the first tips that he gives, like, look at the spin fishermen. What are they doing? They understand they understand much better what the fish are feeding on than any fly fisherman.
Dude, I heard Kelly Gallup. I heard Kelly Gallup say the same shit when I was a kid at a presentation for Streamer Tactics. He was like, listen, you idiots, if you're stuck on an island with fish and you are allowed one fishing implement, are you going to take a fly rod or are you going to take a spin rod with a Rapala? You're going to take the Rapala, you idiot. So make your fly look as much like a Rapala and act like it as you can, and you'll catch more fish. It's true.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to bring a Rapala. I'm going to bring a lead, a hook, and some worms.
I'll go gill net. I'll just take the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring a big spool of gill net.
God.
And fly fishing, we will go. But guys, I actually kind of got to get out of here to go pick up some kids at school. It has been a joy. And Steve will stay here and talk shit about me long.
No, actually,
but,
I think
I do gotta go.
This is a good wrap up. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, especially in a group.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
And I can't wait to go fishing with you.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to do something to keep the memory of SCOF alive in the future.
Absolutely, man. I think we need to start doing an underground zine.
Yes.
Like yes! Straight up old school zine.
Back to how it started when nobody was looking at it and we had no advertising.
I'm gonna buy a 20-year-old photocopier and some scissors and some tape, and we're gonna break something out.
Actually, this
is where is that?
This was exactly what we hoped we could worm you guys into.
So, I mean, we've been talking a bit about sort of setting up a journal, which is not something which is produced sort of in terms of advertising, but working in more kind of scientific content, like some Gonzo reportage, but having something which is basically maybe supported by other things we can do through the Fly Connection. So like that, I mean, it's kind of, a reimagining. I suppose it's not a digital magazine exactly. You can get a fucking paper one, but there's a lot of content online, and it's kind of taking, I suppose, a lot of the angle of what you said before about sort of video and other stuff like this.
Yeah.
We're going to print it on plastic. We're going to throw it into the river. We're going to kill every fish we catch. And thank you guys for joining us on this.
and we've got a whole box of dildos to donate to the cause.
Oh yeah. Well, the box is missing one. Just one though.
Just
all
one.
Right,
and that's why you're sitting a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. Anything we can do to help the Fly Collector from here on out, just ask.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Cool, guys. It's a real pleasure to meet you. Thanks very much.
Keep the dream alive. Talk to everybody soon.
Guys.